Well, Nardeep, thanks for being with us today. I'm so excited to chat with you about this. As I just mentioned a minute ago, it's such an incredible film, Land of Gold. The topics that are really kind of explored through a multi-layered story that I didn't really expect from the beginning. It's just absolutely incredible and left me, I should say, really kind of pondering a number of different topics that I hope to get into with you today in our brief time. Sure. But start off by telling us, what was the inspiration for writing Land of Gold?
Sure. So I was doing a lot of research, trying to figure out how can I expand representation of the South Asian community in America, because we had like these 5 or 6 storylines that we were really focusing on, and I'm like, there's more nuance here, and where could that story be? And through my research, I discovered this really beautiful Punjabi Mexican community that formed during the early 1900s during the Asian Exclusion Act. And it really inspired me. And around that same time, a couple other things were happening. A bunch of my friends were having kids for the first time. And I was talking to a lot of the men, asking them, okay, you're not carrying the baby. When did you become a father? Was it when you found out your lady was pregnant? Was it when you held your kid for the first time? Was it the first step, the first word? And it varied when they felt like it clicked in, right? Yeah. And then around the same time, we were getting inundated with images of children separated from their families at the Mexican-American border for no reason of their own, but an unempathetic governmental response to something basically made them separated from their families, and we created kind of like a lost generation in many ways. I can't get these images out of my head still. No. And I really started to think, what is it to be a brown parent in America right now? Any brown parent, as a black parent to a black child, you have lots of issues you've got to deal with, police, stuff like that. Any parent now with school violence, school shootings and things like that, raising a brown child when they could be taken from you. There's so much that's fraught with trying to raise a child in this country, regardless of color. When you add that onto it and everything that's loaded on top of that because of the society that we have, it really made me think of the fears that I'm going to have when I become a father, and how am I going to be the man that I want to be to my child, while I'm unpacking my own traumas of my family history and everything. So those were the inklings of Land of Gold, and where kind of the seed blossomed from.
I often joke with my friends who have kids. I'm like, how do you take care of another human being when I'm still struggling to take care of myself and everything I have going on? But that explanation actually makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about your friends who have been having kids and such like that. Because I think there's a line in there where you literally say to your wife, "You're the one that's pregnant." And that hit me so hard. It was just I was like, oh no, he screwed up here.
yeah. That was fun in the writing process. I was workshopping it with an actor friend of mine, and I was like, okay, she was pregnant at the time. I'm like, what could your husband say that would piss you off, like divorce language? And we workshopped stuff, and that came up, and then she just went silent. I'm like, that's the one.
That's the one. That's going.
That's the one you don't say. Yeah.
Yeah. How much of your own family history is reflected in the story?
It's peppered in throughout. I'm definitely using a lot of the sort of traumas that my family has faced in their immigration experience. So my family, I was born in Switzerland. My parents are from India, and they immigrated to England, to the UK at first. So their immigration story actually has a lot to do with the UK and what goes on over there. And then, we came over to America later. But it's sprinkled in. It's like, we've definitely have demons in my family, and as most people do, and ways of coping with our fears and the challenges that we face. So that's all peppered into the film in various ways. And then extended family, people who've lost their identity because they think they're doing the thing that's going to protect their family, when they're actually destroying themselves and then passing on the wrong things. The film is loaded with a lot of stuff from my family history and my extended family history and friends' families' histories, and these stories that we hear that are just heartbreaking. The trauma is all in there, as you've seen. What I was trying to do with it is kind of remix it a little bit and not make it about specifically the trauma and make it a trauma porn film, but make it be like, hey, that happened and that was terrible. So how do you move on from it? And how does the next generation move on from it after they've witnessed it? And that's something that, I feel like it's like a lifetime trying to figure that stuff out.
Sure. Yeah, and that comes through in the really the crux of the movie. The foundation of the movie is the relationship between Kiran and Elena. And I want to ask about the actress that played Elena, Caroline Valencia. She was just brilliant in this movie,
isn't she?
So strong, so powerful, even as such a young actress. How did she become attached to this project, and can you speak about what she brought to the film?
Yeah, she's a superstar. Caroline Valencia. I'm so excited for the world to see her incredible performance, man. She is just unbelievable. We're so lucky. So yes, let me answer your question. So one of my producers, Kiran Sastry, she's also our casting director. She's an amazing casting director. She's got an IMDb rap sheet, like super long, right? She did a national search for her. We went to agencies, we did like some stuff at high schools, we went to we did some stuff in Texas and California and New York, everywhere, and we wound up finding Caroline in Long Island, of all places. She did her first audition, she did her callback, and then we did a chemistry read, and all this was during the pandemic, so this is all via Zoom. And I did a chemistry read with her, and once it was done, we met Abby, her mother, and we said bye. And then it was just silent. It was me, Kirtana, Pallavi, and Simon are my other two producers. And it was just silent for a couple of minutes. And then Pallavi finally was like, "She's a star." And it was just obvious, right? That she didn't just win the role, she was the role. To the point that I rewrote scenes based off of those chemistry reads and auditions and what she did and brought to it.
Oh, wow.
Because it was a lot of improv. I wanted to make sure that she could improvise and be in the moment and stay in character. On set, she was brilliant. We had an acting coach on set, Kate Kugler, who worked with both her and me just to make sure that there was to make sure that Caroline had like a safe space on set. Set can be really demanding and like stressful. And she was 9 when she shot the film. She's 10 now. And I wanted to make sure that we created an environment where she felt safe to explore and bring the spirit that she brings to this role so sort of vivaciously and brilliantly. And so we had a Kate there to help her out, and then it was also just like the team that we built to create the environment for her to do that. My DP Chris Lowe, our line producer Julie, like they're friends they're my homies. Like we've been working together for so long that we all kind of were in this together to basically let her rise up to the top. And she's just an incredible talent. She just has it. And Absolutely. Performing with her was super fun. Like, it's not like there's never like pulling teeth or anything like that. It just was like, she's far better than me. So, it made things easy. Like, I was like, okay, I gotta be as good as her. Damn. That's a challenge. But yeah, she brought so much to the role. I mean, it's like, she's an all-American, girl. And that's what I wanted to depict. I wanted her to be like, if you saw her in the street, you wouldn't know that she was undocumented. And Caroline was able to bring that while also retaining the gravitas for when we needed it.
Absolutely. She was only 9 years old when she filmed this.
Isn't that crazy?
That's insane. That's absolutely insane to me, because she's just so powerful. There's a number of scenes where your character reacts to her kind of with this, shock on your face, or just, not sure what to say. And I feel like part of that was you probably as a person being like, wow, like this performance is so good.
Yeah. It makes it easy, as an actor, I always feel like you rise up to who you're with, right? Like, you put two actors who are great, and like the things will pop and pop and pop. And kids in particular are spontaneous. That's what they are. You can't talk to kids the same way you talk to an adult actor. That you have to kind of take what they're doing and really like shepherd it and say, hey, this is great, keep going with it. And with Caroline, I mean, I rarely have to say anything to her. It's just like, she's just always brought it. She got it. You know what I mean? Like, she's funny, she's charming, she can turn those tears on. I mean, she's brilliant. And yeah, a lot of that was just like real raw reactions of just being like, wow, you nuts, you wild.
She is wild. It's incredible. And going from the emotional scenes to even the fun scenes when she's FaceTiming with your family members in the back. I mean, they were really funny when she was like, why are you still with him, or something along those lines. Just really good range there. But It is a heavy film, and especially for a 9-year-old, you discuss a number of themes from policing to cultural acceptance to the importance of family in our own individual journeys, parenthood. There's some strong lines. You say at one point to Caroline's character that the rules are different for people like us. And that's such an interesting, hearing about the perspective of the older generation kind of teaching the younger generation. It's, number one, so disheartening that that's something that has to be taught, but number two, a reality that is impactful when you hear it in this film. What do you hope that viewers take away from Land of Gold at the end of the day?
Man, I really want people to take away hope and empathy, that we can make this world what we want it to be. We are so divided right now, whether that's politically, religiously, whatever it is, right? And I fundamentally believe that if you know what you think you hate, you can't hate it. You just can't. Like, if you actually know, if you take the opportunity to have a conversation and know. So with this movie, I'm making you go on this really long, like 1 hour and 45-minute road trip across the country with these two people that most people have never interacted with, like a sick truck driver and an undocumented 9-year-old. How many times can you say you've met those people in real life, right? And there's a lot of fear associated with these folks, simply because of ignorance. Yeah. And I fundamentally believe that if you are able to laugh and love and cry with someone, you can't hate them. You just can't. You can't write them off. So that's what I want people to take away from this film. It's just that empathy of, like, right, they don't look like me. They may eat different food than me, but they want the same things that I do. They want family. They want hope. They want safety. They want promise that they will be able to live a life of abundance and love. And then, the hope that we can create that, that all it takes is an act of kindness to be able to push us forward.
I think the younger generation right now is going to be the savior for all that.
I completely agree.
A lot of weight to put on their shoulders, but just they kind of are emblematic of where we need to be, I think, in my opinion. But
ain't that the shit though? That's, I feel like everyone says that. I feel like the past generation said that about us, and then the past generation said that about them. We keep pushing the buck down. And at a certain point, we got to stop. And we got to say, you know what? It's not for the next generation. It's for us to start making the change, so the next generation can reap the rewards of that stuff. And it's abysmal that we keep doing this to like our kids, right? Like, I talked earlier about, like, oh yeah, what is that fear of being a father or parent in this timeline? Yeah, you have to think about, like, oh, my kid's gonna have to deal with this stuff that we're doing to them, and we're like building this place for them to have to be like, okay, now what do we do? We got to stop. We got to do the work.
I'm with you.
It's not just up to them.
Yeah, totally with you there. And I think that's one of the best parts of this movie, in my opinion, is just the conversations about the different cultures. And it starts with a joke, right? Like, we're eating Indian food and wrap it up like a burrito. And it starts with that joke. But then throughout the interactions and the relationship building, there's more and more learning from one another. And I think that that's just a perfect encapsulation of what we just talked about. But, that what you said a few minutes ago about, like, you can't hate what you know, along those lines. I just think that that's such a gift in this movie, because it shows what those conversations can lead to and how easy it is to have those conversations where you're just learning from one another and enjoying each other.
Totally. Yeah. When I think about America and being a hyphenate American, it's all about intersectionality. It's all about the cultural
Lost you for a second there, Nardeep. Damn Apple.
A lot of folks are saying that, America is a melting pot. I fundamentally think it's a jambalaya, where each individual piece, you can taste the ingredients separately, but together it makes this amazing, like, medley of flavor in your mouth. And that intersectionality, I think, is something I'm so desperate to see on screen, which we don't really see it much. Like, even between just, like, an Indian person and a Mexican person, like, that being able to see that it's not just like a white black thing, or like a person of color thing. It's also within cultures that we're doing this exchange and needing to have these conversations. I think it's important for people to see, like, hey, we're all in the same struggle and we're all dealing with the same stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, and it's fascinating because we talked about like whose responsibility it is, and I always feel like we as a man, we're getting deep in this interview, so here we are. But you know, the conversation of like whose responsibility is it to be open to learning, to teach and whatnot. And again, it starts with a joke in this, but I think it's pretty emblematic of this conversation. Is someone asks you, the police officer in the movie asked the character, chicken tikka and tikka masala, what's the difference? And it's just like, what are we doing here, you know? But listen, at the end of the day, jokes aside, I love the movie. I actually had a really great time with it, and I'm so excited to hear about the AT&T Untold Stories recognition, and that it's going to be on HBO Max, because I think that that's such a nice way to reach people. But have the best time tonight at the premiere and enjoy it, because it really is a film that I think is doing the work that needs to be done. And so I thank you for that, and I just commend the entire cast, especially Caroline. Let her know that.
I will. She will love hearing that. Thank you so much, Joe, and I'm so glad the film resonated with you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nardeep.
Thanks, Joe.